Welcome to comparing Gran Turismo Sports replayability and nostalgia to all the other Gran Turismo games. I know that GT Sport ain't out yet, but what everybody does know is about the other Gran Turismo games, so I figured it would still be fair to compare them to this to see what they have that this could have to have good replayability and try to figure out if this does have it. Because we already do know some stuff, like what's on the screen now, the modes that we're going to get when the game comes out. And just looking at it to begin with, there's a lot of good stuff here. I'm not really 100% sure of what some of the modes are where we can't get to them, but a lot of them are pretty obvious. Like GT Sport has Garage, where you look at your cars, we can use that, like any other game. I know the GT Sport trailers have already said that it ain't about car collecting and all that, but some people just like to have their cars. I don't really know why you would sponsor in an ad for the game that it's not about car collecting, given that it's a car video game. That's sort of one of the negative takeaways from that trailer that I got, but they did. But nonetheless, there's still Garage, so if you want to car collect, there's an option too. And then another important thing is the gallery. This is where I get into enjoying a lot of the old Gran Turismo games with replayability and especially nostalgia. Is going back and watching the old races that I experienced when they had online or when they were just played more in general. Like Gran Turismo 5, I probably have 500 replays saved of general online races and stuff like that. Or really good time and drift trials that I have, and same with 6. That's going to be something important that this game has, is you, as far as I can tell, are able to save replays of the races. And this is one of the areas where I think the game could have a plus side on any of the other Gran Turismos. Because according to this, what you do racing could end up actually making you be a race car driver. So, if you save races along the way and eventually become a race car driver, that's some pretty cotton picking good nostalgia and replayability right yonder. Because you can go back and watch the races that ended up making you become a race car driver, and then you can share them with the general public too, so you're progressing towards becoming a race car driver. So for the lucky few aliens who actually get to be race car drivers, that's definitely a plus side for them and really the whole community, because they can save their replays of good races they've been in before they become a race car driver, so people can remember them and have nostalgia for them. So on to the next stuff. All the like options and all that's just sort of the generic stuff, but what isn't as generic, hopefully, is the campaign or the story mode. In GT6, one of the main complaints about the game is there really wasn't all that much of a story mode. And honestly, I feel like that in itself sort of fixed itself, if that makes any sense. Having a bad story mode actually made it to where people just went online more and then they just kind of forgot about the story mode. The bad story mode fixed itself because there's online. But with replayability and nostalgia, I'm taking in a factor of no online. It just so happens that the internet won't let me online right now, but that's unrelated. What is related is in order to play a game after online servers are out, it has to either A, have a good story mode, or B, have a good arcade mode, or C, all the above. Preferably all of the above. But I think GT Sport is going to have a good story mode. Obviously, we don't know yet, but from what I've read, it sort of sounds like we do. And also, in the next video that I do, comparing this to an old Gran Turismo game. And this is more about the GT Sport side. I'll make the second video more about the other side. This is more GT Sport has, and then the next one will be what the other games have. And then I'll sort of do a final verdict of what GT Sport has, if it's as good or better than the others once they're compared to the two. But anyway, on to what we do know about is Sport. What I think is kind of weird is that there's a sport mode and an online mode, but at least in the beta, sport mode is online. Maybe sport mode will be sort of like a ranked match in video games, and online mode will be like an unranked match. I'm not really sure. Or maybe sport mode will actually be what you go in to become like a actual race car driver or move up the ranks or whatever, and online is just a general, you pick where you want to go and race with whoever you want. Either way, that sounds fine to me, or maybe a combination of both. But with replayability, that ain't really all that big of a deal, because after there's no online, this ain't gonna be all that important. Replayability for the time being, yes, like once you get the game or whatever. But with me being a hardcore Gran Turismo fan, most likely when I get sport, I'll play it till the online's out completely. That's what I've done with all the other Gran Turismo games that had online. And on to the next thing, as I said, online. I'm not 100% sure what that's really going to be. But the next thing is arcade. Arcade will be important more for the people just going into the game, and how they sponsored racing is for everyone. Arcade will probably go with that. And that does play into the replayability because arcade, as far as I know, will be offline. Now, will it be good? We'll just have to wait and see, folks. Honestly, I think this will be a downgrade to previous Gran Turismos, though, just because of the car count. In arcade, what I enjoyed in GT4 is just going and seeing all the amazing and rare and cool and unique cars that I could race with in arcade that I didn't have the money to get in the main mode because I wasn't really all that good yet in 4. I think the max I ever got in GT4 is about 50% or so. I might at some point go back and finish it, but I've really had no urge to, just given that the other games still have online. I'd much rather compete against other real people than the GTA. It's a sort of another thing about arcade too, is Gran Turismo traditionally doesn't have the best AI. And from what I could tell of the early arcade mode in the beta, which may not be a fair comparison, honestly, because they took it out pretty cotton pick quick, is they weren't terrible, but I couldn't really tell all that much improvement. But that could have been why they took it out pretty cotton pick quick. Maybe they knew it wasn't exactly the best, so they just had it in there for a little bit, so people could pretty much tell them that, and then they know for sure, so then they change it for the better. So we'll just have to wait and see on that, but honestly, I kind of sort of don't think arcade is going to be as good as the past, just because there ain't really going to be as many cars to choose from. Hopefully not. Hopefully I'm wrong. I hope it's the best one ever, but we'll just have to see, folks. We'll just have to see. And then for the next one is the VR Tour. I guess if you have money for VR, this will be a positive compared to the old ones. Just in the simple fact of the old ones don't have VR. Granted, I don't have VR, and I don't really know if I'm going to get it, but for those who do, as far as I know, that's offline, so that'll be a benefit. I don't really know all that much about it because I've never used it, but from what I've seen on YouTube and such, it looks pretty cop-picking cool. And on to the next thing, which could end up being important, is the Manufacturer Central. Supposedly in this game you can support manufacturers and stuff, so this might be more than just car dealership. Maybe not, but maybe. For the way they sort of kind of word it and hype it, it might be like Gran Turismo 4, where you get some extra events per manufacturer. That would be pretty cotton picking cool, folks. And I'd assume those extra events like GT4 would be offline, and then that would definitely help to the replayability. One of the things I enjoyed about Gran Turismo, and this is one of the things where I did advance in the career mode some, or Gran Turismo 4 in particular, was doing the manufacturer-specific challenges that were in the manufacturers. I got all golds in the Dodge ones and the Chrysler ones in the Plymouth, or did Plymouth have one? I can't remember. Any of the Mopar-centric ones, I got all golds and finished all those races, so I did advance in a career for them. I can't remember which ones had ones. I know Dodge did. I can't really remember for the other one. But anyway, that would definitely help, because then that will motivate people to go with manufacturer, and at least for people who ain't quite as good as the game, they're still given motivation to play more of the game. And finally is the escapes. I know this has been hyped up too, but honestly, we've had this since GT4 and maybe before. I know for a fact GT4 and on. We've had photo locations and stuff like that. They're just calling it something different. But nonetheless, I'd say this still will be a slight benefit over the other ones just because the graphics are better. So, even though it's not really anything new, it's just a different name for something old, it still should be better just in the fact that it's on a PlayStation 4 now instead of a PlayStation 3. So that in and of itself will give that benefit. So, all in all, I think GT Sports replayability honestly will be just sort of hurt by the fact of it's more online oriented, and all the previous ones is sort of kind of equal, or at least advertised as sort of kind of equal. I think all in all, GT5 and 6 career mode offline weren't really all that good, but it was kind of advertised as such. And honestly lived up to the expectations because we ended up getting Course Creator on both games, the different variations, and we got to use them offline. Or as far as I know, we're going to get to use the GT6 courses we downloaded offline. I assume those courses that you save will just end up saving as like the main stuff, and you get to like use them like as a save file, not actually as online. I don't 100% know how that works, but I think y'all know what I'm saying. They're saved as a file, like that you just open up, sort of like 5. But anyway, Sport, I don't know if we're going to be able to create tracks, so that'll be a negative. So to sum it up, the positives are the graphics. Obviously, it's the best looking game possibly ever right now on a console. And VR, I guess, for the few who have it. And some of the stuff is sort of a gray area. We don't know how good the campaign or the arcade is yet. So it's kind of iffy to say on that. We just sort of guess. But one thing there definitely be a negative is the car count. There's really nothing you can do to supplement that. Yeah, we have new cars, but Gran Turismo fans in general, I think, like the variety, and that's one of the selling points of Gran Turismo games. That's another bad takeaway I took from the Human Race trailer is burn it to the ground, start from scratch. Some of the existing pieces were pretty cotton-picking awesome, folks. They really were. I enjoyed driving my old cars. Paint a 1970, really it should be a 69, Dodge Charger orange, and then I'm happy for a long time. But we don't get that. So that would definitely be a negative. But honestly, that's the only big negative that I can think of. But in part 2, I'll go over the other games and see if some more positives or negatives come out by judging what the other games have that this one might or might not. But I might find some positives too. We'll just have to see, folks. We'll just have to see. And for now, as always, yeehaw! And remember to wait for the next one, because that one will definitely be important too, comparing it to the old games and not just what this game has. Yeehaw!